Good afternoon, and welcome to our 86th commencement. Today we recognize and celebrate the achievements of the class of 2010. We begin our ceremony with the national anthem, sung by Professors Carrie Bricker, Clark Kelso, Jay Leach, Paul Payton, and Assistant Dean John McIntyre. Please stand, and then remain standing for the invocation by the Reverend Canon Kathleen Kelly.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the brave and the home of the
Amidst all this joy, I invite you into a time of reverence and awe. A day has come that sometimes seemed impossible and always seemed distant. We raise our thanks and we pray. May the joy of this accomplishment strengthen our resolve to press on toward other goals that can seem remote. Justice for all people in all lands. Understanding among diverse cultures. Adequate food, shelter, and work for all. Care for the earth's rich bounty. May the joy of today's accomplishment remain a source of inspiration to each graduate as they take their place in the ordering of our common life. And may the bonds formed in these years give strength and resilience in every time of need. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Canon Kathleen Kelly. Some of you may not recall, but the Reverend Kelly was for 9 years our Associate Dean, and so it's always a happy occasion to welcome her back. Please be seated. It's sure to introduce our platform party. I'll ask each member of the party to rise as they are introduced and then remain standing until introductions are completed, and I'll ask all of you to hold your applause until the end. First, Judge Consuelo M. Callahan, a distinguished alum and university regent. Dr. Pamela A. Ibeck, our university president, Dr. Philip Gilbertson, provost of the university, Mary Lou Lackey, vice president and secretary of the Board of Regents, Patrick Kavanaugh, university vice president for finance, Dr. Elizabeth Griego, vice president for student life, Dr. Patrick Farillo, dean of the Arthur Degoni School of Dentistry and interim provost-elect, and our commencement speaker, the Honorable Darrell S. Steinberg, president pro tempore of the California State Senate, Dr. Jace Hargis, associate provost for teaching and learning, and Scott M. Hervey, vice president of our Alumni Association for the McGeorge School of Law. Now, I need hardly tell you that also on our platform is our wonderful faculty. They're identified individually in your program, and I'd like to invite them as well to stand for well-deserved recognition. This is their day as much as it is our graduates. And as I ask the platform party to take their seat, I would, however, like to ask Professor Cecilia Arnold to remain standing as we acknowledge her retirement and a remarkable 26 years of service on our faculty working in our clinical programs. Cecilia, we wish you the best, and we thank you for your dedicated, tireless service over the last quarter century. We're fortunate to have as this year's commencement speaker a very distinguished legislator and a particular friend of Pacific McGeorge, California State Senator Pro Tem Darrell Steinberg, Jr. In welcoming Senator Steinberg, we have the opportunity as well to acknowledge a lawyer whose career reflects better than almost anyone I can think of the core values we seek to instill in our Pacific McGeorge students: tireless service to others. Senator Steinberg has a bachelor's degree in economics from UCLA and a Juris Doctor from UC Davis. He's distinguished himself as an elected member of the Sacramento City Council, the California State Assembly, the California State Senate. What next, Darrell? Senator Steinberg's service to California has earned him numerous awards and citations, including the California Journal's Mini Award, recognizing legislators who represent a pattern of conduct, an outlook, and a demeanor that exemplifies the best in public service. The nonpartisan magazine also named him Assemblyman of the Year for 2004, and then honored him as the Assembly's top member in the categories, the critical categories of integrity, best problem solver, and hardest working. Senator Steinberg's public service extends, however, far beyond elected office. A recent example that we at Pacific McGeorge celebrate is his willingness to join us last fall in our inaugural Citizenship Fair. He joined us in welcoming and encouraging hundreds of immigrants on the path to becoming American citizens, and he thanked our students who participated in the event as they were working with these immigrant families. Senator Steinberg, we appreciate your help in this example and in so many. You are indeed a model that we celebrate. And so it's a particular pleasure to introduce a distinguished public servant, but a wonderful friend to Pacific McGeorge.
Dean Parker, distinguished faculty, graduates, families, all who are here celebrating, congratulations. I remember a few years ago sitting where you are sitting. I remember feeling so proud at seeing my parents so proud. To all of you, the class of 2010, congratulations. Enjoy, cherish, and remember this wonderful day. When people who don't know me or follow California politics asks me how I feel being a member of a most unpopular profession, I usually respond, "At least I'm a lawyer too." Right on. Actually, I am quite proud to be associated with two highly honorable professions. You too should be proud of the path that you have chosen. We are in the midst, in this state and in this country, of a very sobering time, a time which challenges one's beliefs in representative democracy, our ability to protect the kids, the elderly, and the poor from the ravages of a historic economic crisis. And yet there are people on the other side of the aisle from me with deeply held beliefs that government should simply step out of the way and prosperity will return sooner. I want to speak with you this afternoon about the fine and imperfect balance of fighting for what you believe in, success, and not making your opponent your enemy. Right on. That's the spirit I'm talking about. A few years ago, Governor Schwarzenegger declared that we were entering what he called the post-partisan era. He predicted that practicality would supersede political ideology. But sadly, we have careened, in my view, as a nation and as a society, into a period where a kind of false theology has replaced ideology. You see, ideology is what each of us believes is true. It is our point of view. Disagreements on an issue are based on those differences of opinion. But this new false theology has become something quite different. It carries with it a certainty that not only are we right, but that God Himself is on our side, and those on the other side, well, God is not on their side. That kind of absolute certainty has had and continues to have a corrosive effect on our ability to disagree, to doubt our own points of view, and to consider opposing points of view. There's a good reason why the founders separated church and state. We are now living in a time when the public discourse has shifted from "I think I'm right" to "I am good and you are bad." Graduates, this is a perilous place for a society and a culture to come to. We need look no farther than what has happened in Arizona. There, the public discourse about the challenges of our failed nation's immigration policy has spiraled out of control. Posturing has replaced problem solving. Separate laws and separate enforcement based on the color of one's skin. Not here. From pandering radio talk jerks to policy absolutists. Turn off your radio, by the way. The gray has been erased, and now for far too many of us, there is only black and white. I've been in public life for 16 years, and I continue to hold on to the belief that one can be both a partisan, an advocate for a cause, a client and a set of beliefs, and a patriot, dedicated to putting what is best for country, state, or our legal system ahead of one's own point of view. That is right. You can be a partisan and a patriot too. You can fight for your beliefs and you can still get something done. You can represent your clients with passion and still get along and, yes, show courtesy to your opposing counsel. In fact, it is often a better path to achieve your goals. Now, I recognize that embracing partisanship and bipartisanship concurrently may seem to be a contradiction. But let us remember, in this country, our most important values are contradictions. At the end of the Pledge of Allegiance, we all say, "with liberty and justice for all." And think about it. Liberty and justice are values oftentimes in conflict. Absolute liberty would create a society where the strong dominate the weak, the rich dominate the poor, the big dominate the small. And a society that imposed absolute justice might require us to deprive people of many of our liberties. But just because liberty and justice are in conflict does not mean that they are not values that we must pursue concurrently. To the contrary, it means that we must pursue them both and work every day to find the imperfect balance between them. That's why we have the rule of law, to resolve those contradictions the best that we can, one at a time. So it is with partisanship and bipartisanship. As new lawyers, you will be hired as partisans to advocate and to fight for your clients. But each of you will find that it is often in your client's best interest and in society's best interest to find some workable, practical middle ground. I was a trial lawyer for 10 years before I got into politics. When I went to trial, it was a fight. The outcome often determined by who worked harder, who was better prepared, and who could advocate more persuasively. But prior to trial, I always experienced as a practitioner that the more cooperative I was with opposing counsel on matters of procedure, the more I listened to the other side of the case, the better settlement I usually received for my client. It's amazing how effective it can be to better understand the strengths and weaknesses of your own case by working with the other side. In the political arena, of course, partisanship carried to an extreme started the Civil War. I have strong beliefs about what is right, what is fair, and what is just, and I'm sure you do too. And while I think I am right, I can't be so absolute, so certain, that I stop listening to those who have different points of view and who think that they are right. Because if I do, I will achieve nothing. Stalemate in politics, in government, or in the law is not an acceptable alternative to progress, even when that progress is slower than we would all like. Bipartisanship requires each of us to listen, to recognize that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, that the entirety of our society is more important than what each of us may think is right. We are a collective. We must find ways to solve problems without tearing the fabric of society. Graduates, these are exciting and interesting times. And I know the graduating class comes from different generations. The average age is 26, and for most of you in that category, for all of you in that category, you are an exciting and interesting generation. Yeah, right on. And let me tell you why. Nearly 1/3 of your generation is registered to vote in neither political party. You are independents. Almost 80% of your generation does not subscribe to a newspaper. And almost, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's the fact. And almost none of you buy music CDs. Is that because you are alienated from politics or uninformed about the world, or you stopped listening to music? Of course not. It's the I in iPod and iTunes. It's the eye for individuality. You're creating your own blends of music and information and politics. It's a new culture, a culture that has refreshingly rejected prepackaging, whether it's prepackaged ideology in a political party, or prepackaged information in a newspaper, or prepackaged music on a CD. I know I am anxious and excited to see what this will mean to our collective future. Perhaps you will replace partisanship and bipartisanship with something new, a multi-partisanship, where you devise ways to accommodate many points of view at once instead of today's conflict usually between just 2 points of view. Maybe you will have a legislature that isn't made up strictly of party caucuses. Maybe yours will create blended solutions that allow more choices in our society without those choices being the domination of one group over another. After all, as tough as the times are, this is California, the home of what is new, what hasn't been thought of or done before. In Robert Penn Warren's Pulitzer Prize-winning political classic, All the King's Men, one of the characters challenges the political boss with a question. There is one question I should like to ask you. It is this: if, as you say, the good must be made from the bad, then how do you ever know what the good is? How do you even recognize the good? Answer me that. Easy, Doc, easy, the boss said. Well, answer it. You just make it up as you go along. You just make it up as you go along. Isn't that exactly what Rosa Parks did? She was a seamstress, a lady tired after work who made up a new rule. Tired ladies would sit in the front of the bus. She didn't know what would happen. She was making it up as she went along. Did you know that California's famous grape strike in Delano wasn't started by Cesar Chavez? It was started by the Filipino grape workers. And what Cesar Chavez did that was so remarkable was to lead the Latino farm workers to join the Filipino farm workers. Now that's bipartisanship, and it changed the lives of millions of people. When you visit the McGeorge website, there are beautiful pictures of when Mikhail Gorbachev visited your campus. Think about what he and President Reagan did. They ended the Cold War between countries with the two most powerful arsenals without ever firing a shot. These two fierce partisans were patriots who recognized that mutual respect was better than mutually assured destruction. Now, I know some of it may sound naive, thinking that I or any of you can do anything as grand, but never lose your idealism. Despite all the difficulties, the divisions and distrust, embrace our collective human frailty, our flawed system, unrelenting desire to do better. In his historic speech on race in March of 2008, Barack Obama called our nation's founding documents signed but unfinished. That is how it should be. It is up to each generation to take up the task of forming a more perfect union. Welcome to our imperfect world. Bring your talent, bring your training, bring your desire, bring your best game. We need you. It doesn't matter if you end up practicing business law or labor law or environmental law, family law, contract law, criminal law. It doesn't matter. Because all of us can practice the laws of good human nature. We can be both partisans and patriots, fighting always for what we think is right, but putting nothing above the challenge to do the greatest good for the greatest number. Thank you so much for inviting me here today. I wish you all the very best. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Steinberg. Wonderful words to send this group of graduates on their way. I now have the honor of introducing Pacific's new president, Dr. Pamela A. Ibeck, who will convey her personal congratulations to the class of 2010. Dr. Ibeck is the 24th president of the University of the Pacific. Her presidency follows a distinguished career. A tenured researcher and teacher at the University of California, Berkeley, then an educational reformer and university administrator at Northern Arizona University, and finally, Dean of the Edward E. Whitaker Jr. College of Engineering at Texas Tech University, one of the nation's largest engineering colleges. President Ibeck holds a bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degree in mechanical engineering from Stanford. She's a fellow of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers and has received the Distinguished Engineering Educator Award from the Society of Women Engineers. This commencement marks Dr. Ibeck's first academic year as our president. It's a year that saw record undergraduate applications, nearly 20,000 total, and sound finances. President Ibeck has dedicated considerable time this year to a listening campaign, spending time on all 3 of Pacific's campuses and traveling coast to coast to engage our alumni. In her honor, the university hosted a year-long presidential inaugural series. These events highlighted the university's history and traditions, its robust strength today, and its promising future. And several of these wonderful events were sponsored by Pacific McGeorge, including our 5th National Ethics Trial Competition, a symposium on the Italian criminal justice system and the development of international and criminal courts, and a lecture by renowned author Michael Pollan in celebration of Pacific's first Sustainability Month. These events demonstrate President Ibeck's and the university's deep commitment to whole-person education, global outreach, and importantly, sustainability. They encapsulate President Ibeck's exciting vision and the dynamic direction I believe Pacific will take under her leadership. It's a great pleasure to introduce President Pamela A. Ibeck, the 24th President of the University of the Pacific.
Congratulations, graduates. Friends and family, the day you've been waiting for has arrived. How do you feel? Good to hear it. Thank you to our distinguished Board of Regents, our energetic Dean, Elizabeth Parker, and her team, our inspiring speaker, the Honorable Darrell Steinberg. This is my first commencement as president of the University of the Pacific and my first opportunity to preside over the McGeorge School of Law's diploma and hooding ceremony. I am honored today to confer degrees upon our very deserving graduates and to pay tribute to our world-class faculty and dedicated staff. This has been a terrific first year in office, and I thank you for making Bill and me welcome. Reflecting on this year, early in my presidency, I had the opportunity to celebrate Constitution Day with you and your longtime faculty member, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy. It was fitting and symbolic to have Justice Kennedy help us break ground on the new Pacific McGeorge Legal Studies Center, uniting the school's exceptional past with its promising future. The singularity of this year continued when I joined Pacific's delegation to the 3rd Annual Clinton Global Initiative for Universities. The Clinton Global Initiative University brings together students and university leaders from around the world to work on solutions to global crises. The delegation of 15 students from University of the Pacific, including your very own Fatima Uqbal, was the largest delegation of students from any one institution and there were over 1,400 students there at the conference. This experience was enormously inspiring. I've never felt so optimistic about our power to effect change. And how exhilarating to introduce myself to Bill Clinton and discover that he and his CEO know all about University of the Pacific, and they greatly admire our commitment to changing the world to be a better place. All those who attended the CGIU were asked to make what's called a commitment to action, a detailed plan that will address an urgent problem. By now, many of you know that building community is paramount to me. My commitment as president is to support our exceptional university community, to strengthen Pacific's relationship with our local communities. And I'm also calling for us to become a true three-city university, one that unites and leverages our three communities of Stockton, San Francisco, and of course, Sacramento, California's seat of power. Let me tell you about two of your fellow McGeorge students and the commitments they have made to communities near and far. Joseph Thusen, who receives his Juris Doctorate today, is a disabled Gulf War veteran who completed his studies while also raising 4 children with his wife, Angela. And I understand son And I understand your son Benjamin's 9th birthday is coming up Monday. Happy birthday, Benjamin. Joseph Thusen is a serious student. For example, he has published research on laws protecting child actors in partnership with Eberhart School of Business professor and McGeorge instructor Thomas Brereton. Joseph is also deeply committed to the local community. For the last 10 years, he has served as Sacramento 911 dispatcher, training officer, and supervisor, working 50 hours a week while simultaneously pursuing his degree. From his early Marine Corps service to his current work on California's incident dispatch team, Joseph has taken public safety very seriously. He's willing to put his life on the line for our protection. Thank you, Joseph. Jeanette Zapata. Jeanette also receives her Juris Doctorate today. She emigrated from Mexico to the U.S. at age 15. Her mother, Estela Guzman, a laborer and farm worker, took on 2 jobs to support the family. Jeanette experienced discrimination as a non-native English speaker. She suffered through 10-hour days spent sorting fruit, and so she resolved to work for change, not just for herself, but for as many marginalized people as she could help. Education is Jeanette's passion, especially educating disadvantaged youth. With the support and patronage of the Bustos family of Bustos Media, Jeanette pursued her undergraduate and graduate degrees. In college at UCLA, she organized a bilingual conference to explain community service and the college application process to parents of prospective students. At McGeorge, she has worked as a tutor and mentor in the Pipeline Project and the Street Law Program. As vice president of Your Latino Law Students Program Association, Jeanette also mentored incoming Latino students. I'm sure some of you in the audience this afternoon benefited firsthand from her support. After graduation, Jeanette intends to continue her advocacy. Professionally, she aspires to advance the legal rights of underrepresented groups, perhaps as a plaintiff's trial attorney or in politics. Jeanette also plans to devote spare time to community education, working to lower the Latino dropout rate and prepare Latino youth for college. Thank you, Jeanette. So you've heard the story of just 2 of your colleagues' commitment, and it's time to ask, what will your commitment be? As lawyers and as citizens, what matters to you? McGeorge graduates understand that your work has moral implications. After all, your training emphasizes ethical reasoning. Think the Ethics Across the Professions initiative or your annual sponsorship of the National Ethics Trial Competition. You also know that the law has a serious role to play in society's improvement. And of course, consider your own commitment to campus sustainability. Now, as individuals, how will you take your legal education with its social and ethical lessons and use it to satisfy your commitment to better the world, to transform the world in some way, however large or small? From here on out, graduates, the world you get will be the one you make. I know you will make it better. Go forth and make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, President Ibeck. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for being as present on our campus as I think I have ever recalled a university official being. It's a wonderful opportunity to join forces as a university with the power that gives us. Our graduating class traditionally selects 3 class speakers, one from our day division, one from the evening division, and an LLM student speaker in recognition of our growing master's program, which this year included 36 students from 21 countries. Representing the day division class is William Jackson. A graduate of California State University, Long Beach, he earned membership to the Roger J. Traynor Honor Society and was elected to the Order of the Coif yesterday. He's a member as well of our nationally ranked mock trial competition team. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Dean Parker, for that kind introduction. Good afternoon, graduates, faculty, family, and friends. It's an honor to be here with you today, but I have to admit it's a bit overwhelming standing on the stage and looking out at this group right here. I don't think I've seen so many overachievers in one place before. I've promised some people that I would refrain from referencing sunsets or rainbows or green pastures or any other kind of syrupy metaphor for hope in the future. So, if you bear with me for a few minutes, I'll do my best to stay true to my word. How great it is to be here today. Do y'all remember stepping out of the classroom after turning in your first exam of your first year? I remember it well. I remember stepping out, I think it was contracts, and I thought, what just happened? Was there even an offer or acceptance? Because all I saw were dates and numbers. Think back to that time, and now look at us. We're dressed here in these caps and gowns with these sweet purple stripes on the sleeves, signifying that we did it. It truly is a time to celebrate. Law school has been a challenging, crazy, rewarding adventure. I remember being in my first year at McGeorge, sitting in class and just being so intimidated by all the smart, successful people in my classroom. And by the professor who was asking me questions in a way people were calling the Socratic method. I didn't really have much familiarity with Socrates, but after being subjected to his method for the first time, I wasn't a big fan. But as the semester progressed, I started to realize this Socrates guy and his method weren't as bad as I thought. And the professor was just trying to push me to think deeper. Those intimidating students in my class were still just as intelligent and dedicated as I thought, but they were also friendly, supportive, and actually quite funny. I learned a lot during these past 3 years. I learned how to read a case. I learned how to stand up and address a jury. I learned that the library is a great place to meet pretty brunettes. I also learned that the phrase, "I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?" really means I was updating my status on Facebook just now. But most importantly, I learned that I was stronger than I had ever dreamed. And it would not have been possible without the support I received. Graduates, take a look around this room at the faculty and family and friends who have supported us during these 3 years. The people in this room have taken a chance on us. They believe in us. Let's not let them down. Let's not let ourselves down, because we know what we are capable of. Let's show the people in this room that they made the right choice to believe in us and invest in our future. Let's be the leaders of our profession. Who will the members of our community turn to when they're hoping to start their own business and want to know what their options are? Who will they turn to when their world is turned upside down because they have been injured in a terrible accident and they need someone to help them get their lives back on track? Who will they turn to when they have to stand up against the awesome power of the government? They'll need an advocate, a champion, and they'll be looking to us. And I know that when that time comes, we will be ready for the challenge. This school has trained us for it. You know, there's a reason why law school isn't easy. I like to think of law school kind of like a boot camp for nerds. And I mean that with the greatest respect, because I'm one of them. Our time at McGeorge has shaped us to become thinkers, communicators, and leaders. It's true, these are unique times in which we live. The country is crying out for a special kind of person. Someone with resolve, someone with toughness, someone who is not afraid to take on new challenges and solve new problems. And that is the kind of person McGeorge has trained each and every one of us to be. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget that the same character traits and sick disposition that made us go to law school in the first place is what our community and our country need now more than ever. Let's not forget the skills and lessons we've learned over these past 3 or 4 years, the challenges we've overcome, the sweat, the tears, and the determination. Now, I joked when I first got up here when I called you all overachievers. But class of 2010, that is exactly what this country needs right now. Now is not the time for mediocrity. Now is the time for excellence. Now is the time for the overachievers. When we step out of this auditorium, we leave as new people who have been refined and molded to do great things. People out there, they're going to need leaders, but they don't need to look any further than this room right here. We will face endless problems that we will have to solve, but graduates, that's exactly what we have been doing. So go enjoy the day. Let your grandmother take 1,000 pictures of you. Enjoy the wine and cheese at the reception, and remember the journey you have made and the people you have become. Thank you.
So, thank you, Mr. Jackson, and whoever chose him, thank you. It was a great choice. Representing the evening division is Shelby Gatlin. Ms. Gatlin is a UC Davis graduate who came to law school after working for the United States Department of the Interior and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. At Pacific McGeorge, she earned membership in the Roger J. Traynor Honor Society and was also elected yesterday to the Order of the Coif. Ms. Gatlin.
Thank you, Dean Runskopf-Parker. What a happy day. I am honored to be speaking with you today. These men and women in front of me, they humble me. For the last 4 years, I have consistently been inspired by them and in awe of them. We gather today to recognize their accomplishment, but what I'd like to talk about is their commitment. Today we get shiny new JDs. We are finally considered lawyers. But my classmates, their commitment to the law, to understanding its principles, its power, the responsibility, that commitment is far from new. It is seasoned, a bit worn, and it is impressive. To the proud parents in the audience, the friends, the family, you probably remember when they took the LSAT or when they decided to go to law school. Those decisions led to 1,000 more daily decisions, often made alone, with a casebook and a highlighter and 1,000 more pages to read. Decisions on how much more to study, or how many more supplements to buy, or how long to stay at my own birthday party. We celebrate those choices today. When you first start law school, it is overwhelming. With each class, you are introduced to 100 new points of law, each with its own subsets of factors and elements. I remember the roll-in factors. In a quick 10-minute discussion, the professor introduced us to a single point of law with this huge laundry list of factors. It was suggested we memorize them, but there was really only a slim chance of them being on the exam. So it was a choice. Do you take on the seemingly dreadful, if not impossible, task of memorizing them? I can tell you that the students here today did. Otherwise, they would not likely be graduating today because those factors were the exam. But those choices, too numerous to count, are what make up law school. It seems impossible, but that's the first lesson. Given great commitment, anything is possible. And the professors, they come at you with all these new theories that are as challenging as they are exciting, and you listen to them in awe. These pillars of knowledge, unshakable in their brilliance and their ability to annihilate souls with the Socratic method. But if you're lucky, something wonderful happens and you start to see them. Professor Levine will drop an eraser on his well-polished loafer, and as much as he'd like to continue as if nothing had happened, he cannot ignore that chalk dust on his shoe. Of course, this is a problem that would never happen to Professor Myers. But you start to see them. You start to see them still as brilliant, but as teachers working hard to teach. Professor Salcido creating cryptic ways to teach the rule of perpetuities, or Professor Tajani literally choreographing the defenses to contracts. And somehow we got through that first year. We started to learn the law, think like lawyers, but the adrenaline wore off. The days got long, and the work remained. And that's where this class is simply extraordinary. Everyone in their own way pushed their commitment. We had some who immediately began using their knowledge to counsel crime victims. Others helped tenants evicted during an unprecedented time of foreclosures. Some started organizations to fight injustices, such as child trafficking. Others added externships to an already full workday. And some left secure jobs to start anew as law clerks. Brave souls started their families, and a few expanded theirs beyond minivan status. But they embraced all of the uncertainty that entails. But most impressive to me were those who struggled with the academics, who not so simply buckled down, busted their butts, and got through it. It is certainly a day to be proud. I rejoice in this class's diversity. It has enhanced my education by broadening my perspective. We have many who were born in foreign countries, and some who speak more languages than I can name. But we also have marathoners and national skating champions, freedom advocates, and candy connoisseurs. We have incredible fathers. And we have brilliant mothers. Indeed, indeed. One of the best parts about being in law school was learning about each other, about being a witness to each other's profound self-discoveries. I will never forget the first time I heard Robert Rice give an opening argument for mock trial. His sheer talent as an orator, his presence, it was moving, generating goosebumps, and securing an acquittal no matter how guilty. When our friends won trials or were published in the Law Review, it was incredibly exciting, yet also very humbling, for we were abundantly aware of their sacrifice. To the families and friends in the audience, here's the irony. This law school thing, it made us miss out on you. We missed holidays and dinners and simple conversations. But because of that, there was an even greater obligation to do well, to have what we missed mean something. You are such a big part of today. Simultaneously making the commitment it takes to get through this seem impossible, yet the option of walking away, unacceptable. My friend Lilica reminded me how lucky we are to have you here today. Far too many of our classmates lost parents while earning their degree. Their strength in returning to class, picking up the book, and continuing the work was inspiring to us who could only watch with heavy hearts. No doubt their parents are proud. We thank you, our families. You have supported us, and you have missed us. I get to be a little selfish here. I want to thank my husband, Russ, who earned this degree right along with me. Indeed. I also want to thank my mom, who over the past 4 years has taught me about motherhood. That even if you think what your kid is doing is nuts, if it's their choice, you support them, and she absolutely has. Over the past 4 years, this class committed itself to becoming lawyers. Every night, fighting rush hour traffic, missing dinners to make it to class, to study. They dedicated themselves to the law, understanding its application and its power. They are a truly inspiring, amazing, courageous group. And they are who I would want as my lawyer, no doubt. Recognize their accomplishment, but more importantly, take a moment to reflect on their commitment and be proud. They so deserve it. Congratulations, my friends. Thank you.
You know, these speeches are not a total surprise. I've heard both speak before. And so I know you've chosen wisely. And in our third speaker, I think the same will be true. Representing the LLM class is Grace Gatabaru. Grace is a native of Kenya, of French nationality, who speaks 5 languages. She studied at the University of Paris, the Sorbonne, majoring in English and North American business law. And she also has a degree in international private practice. She receives her Master's of Law degree today in the teaching of advocacy. Mrs. Gatabaru.
honored to be here today. I'm honored to share in the vision of President Ibeck and Dean Parker of training students in a very student-friendly environment to become effective in a global market, in a global society, and make a difference. I spoke with the international students and with the LLM students before I came to speak, and I asked them what they would like me to say on their behalf. They asked me to say the following. They are grateful, we are all very grateful, in fact, for Professor Mark Ewan and Rachel Dubé of International Programs, who have been extremely supportive. From the minute we sent them the first emails to this day, on every detail of our lives, they have been a blessing to us. The students, the LLM students and international students also asked me to say a big thank you to the library staff and the students who work in the library for all the help that they gave them this last year. I was asked to give a special thanks as well to the JD students, to the American JD students who welcomed the LLM students and especially the international students in the class and helped them feel at home, not only in the class, but outside of it. Also, not to forget, so there, I've said it. And we've also been highly influenced and touched by other members of staff who help make the university so successful. Well, we can think of the staff in the business office, the public safety officers, who we see very often and who we appreciate, the staff in the student center who always meet us with a smile, Stella and Walter, to be very precise. And also, it's been so great just walking through the grounds. The international students have really appreciated the quietness of the campus, how beautiful it is. And we also noticed that if you walk into the campus very early in the morning, and especially on Saturdays, you meet the gardeners watering, cutting the grass. And even so early, they'll always have a friendly greeting, and that makes a difference in our lives. We're thankful. Now, we took an informal survey, and the students who were here, the international students, have friends on other campuses. They have friends who are abroad, in university abroad, and they all agree that this campus, Mark George campus, is the most family-oriented campus they know. They're likely to know. So we're very grateful to be here for that. And we also took another informal survey, and we realized that there is no campus which can hold a candle to Mark George School of Law regarding the events that are organized every week. We have a list of events every Monday. There's speakers coming from all over the place. We don't even have to leave campus to go and look for lawyers or judges. They've been coming to us, giving us great speeches. We've been meeting great people. We've been having a lot of informal events which allowed us to meet students, meet faculty, and that has really made a difference. And there are also some touches which we see here, which have been great for us. The fact, for example, that when the student center is closed, the campus, the university gives us free pizzas. The fact that during the exam period, we get free beverages. The fact also that during exams, all work, all the renovation work that was taking place just stopped so we could study in peace. Those are the things that make a difference. Now, I'd like to talk a bit about how I felt, and my greatest inspiration was my professors. I'm in the LLM of Advocacy, Practice, and Teaching, and I observed my professors, and I was so impressed by the hard work they put in. I still don't know, from the beginning of the year to this time, I don't know who works harder, the professors or the students. I've had the privilege, to just catch a glimpse of the work they put into the preparation of classes, of the preparation of a single class, the detail that goes into it. No class is quite like the other one. So, it's been amazing, and it's been a great time watching them. And it's also very encouraging, the fact that we could come in so freely, send them emails, they would answer immediately, talk to them after class, go and see them in the office. They were just so accessible and so encouraging, and really that has been a blessing to me as well. They have also infused in us a passion of what they were teaching, so it will certainly go on in the career of teaching and advocacy practice. Now, I came from Kenya. I was born in Kenya. I studied law in France. I'm a French national. I came here to improve myself and to go a step further in, not just for myself, but also to make a difference in the community. Now, I'd urge you as well to, if you look at the Mark George website, it says, start here, go anywhere. And I'd urge you, the new graduates, to take this step abroad, go and study, work, and don't forget that you now have colleagues all over the world, and we'll all be there for you. So if you have a venture, scholarship, or a project, whatever it is, or even if you're just traveling, just look up any Mark George graduate who is in any country, and we'll be happy to receive you. Thank you very much. Asante sana. Merci.
Thank you, Mrs. Gatabaru, and we look forward to reports of the teaching that you will be doing as you go out into the world. I now turn to what I know everyone has been waiting for, the principal order of business.